The natal chart of David Dwight York, aka Dr. Malachi Z York Part 2. Would you like me to now continue with Part 3, Ascendant and Descendant with Zodiac Overlay? Or would you like to expand deeper into Chiron's house position before we move on? Tar speaks. Yes, let's move on to the Ascendant and Descendant signs with their negatives and positives, and then use Noone to explain with extra details. True Mental Cosmic Particles piece. Here's the Ascendant and Descendant for Dwight David York, based on his exact birth data. Ascendant, rising sign. Sign, Scorpio degree, 235.07 degrees, 5.07 degrees Scorpio. Descendant, setting sign. Sign, Taurus degree, 55.07 degrees, 25.07 degrees Taurus. Part 3, Ascendant and Descendant, Western and Noone view. Scorpio Ascendant, rising sign. I transform the mask of mystery and control. Tar speaks. Here are many of Mr. York's past masks and updated ones by his mentally dead followers. Tar speaks. These are AI-generated images by his followers. Western traits. Mysterious, intense, emotionally deep yet guarded. Magnetically attractive, controlling, often secretive. Ascendants show how a person projects themselves, and Scorpio projects power and seduction. Shadow traits. Overly controlling, obsessive, vengeful, and prone to using psychological tactics. Hidden motives masked as mysticism. Tar speaks. Here are more Mr. York's mysticism he used to hide his true self. Tar speaks. One of Mr. York's famous sayings were, "I came giving you what you wanted, so you can learn to want what I have to give." However, in Mr. York's style of imitation, that saying came from someone else. Mr. York took this saying from a Hindu spiritual leader named Satya Sai Baba, 23 November 1926 to April 24, 2011. Below is the visual proof. This man was already known in the world before Mr. York started teaching. Mr. Baba started teaching in 1940 at 14, 5 years before Mr. York was born. Another fun fact, Mr. Baba was accused of child molestations and murder. What is also interesting, Mr. York put this same PDF file into a book Mr. York plagiarized in 1996 and 1997 AD. Scorpio rising is ruled by Marsha, Mars, and co-ruled by Pluto, both agents of power and destruction. This gives York a marrow-born interface, connecting his surface identity to the core blood essence of Zoapo. He entered the world as a psychic manipulator, a being whose personality is wired to attract the emotionally vulnerable and dominate them through perceived strength. Scorpio rising is like wearing the mask of a spiritual serpent, appearing deep, wise, ancient but often deceiving. Tar speaks. Mr. York wrote a book called The Mind and the Psyche is a Part of the Brain. Taurus descendant, relationship/shadow side. I have the mirror of possession and pleasure. Western traits. Craves stability, loyalty, sensual bonding, looks for grounding in relationships. Wants to be valued through material and physical security. Shadow traits. Attracts partners who are stubborn, clingy, or materialistic. Can control others through comfort and seduction. May seek physical dominance in relationships. Tar speaks. Mr. York has spoke and written about sex on various subjects. One particular book called Sex Life of a Muslim, of which the cover had an image of a male and female statue together naked. Not only was this not Islamic, it was a statue from temples in Khajuraho, India. These 19 to 20 temples have multiple people and animals in all types of sexual positions. It's an ancient freak-off location created 850–1000 CE. These temples are called erotic, of which is some believed the Kuma Sutra, an agreement of sex, love, and desire, influenced these very hyper-sexual carvings. This proves that this society was fully possessed by Leviathan and Noone Science in Shesha, in Hinduism, king of the serpents. Below are a few other books on sex Mr. York was associated with. Noone analysis. Taurus is ruled by Venus, governing the flesh house, third zodiac house. This means York's mirror in life was the sensual and carnal. He would seek to possess others' bodies, just as he wanted to be worshipped by his own. Tar speaks. Mr. York has indeed centered himself as Savior, Messiah, God, the Master of heaven and earth. His cult also have or had statues of him in their Brooklyn headquarters. Master of heaven of earth. His spiritual downfall was tied to relationships he attracted and used people for emotional stability and fleshly loyalty. June 02, 2003. Two defendants in Nuwaubian case plead guilty, by Matt Tanner, the union recorder. Chandra Lampkin and Kadia Merritt, members of the quasi-religious group known as Nuwaubians, both pleaded guilty in Baldwin County Superior Court Friday to 2 counts of child molestation. They were sentenced to 10 years probation and ordered to pay fines and court costs in the amount of $675. Both defendants used what is known as an Alford plea, a type of plea used by a defendant when he or she recognizes that, based on the evidence against them, it is in their best interest to plead guilty. Fred Bright, Okmulgee Judicial Circuit District Attorney, was pleased with the sentence, saying several factors were taken into account in the sentencing decision. Number 1, both defendants had already served 7 months in jail, he said. Number 2, there was evidence that both of these defendants had been victimized by Dwight York when they were minors. Both of them basically had been raised on the Nuwaubian compound. Nuwaubian leader Dwight York pleaded guilty January 24 in Putnam County Superior Court to 40 counts of aggravated child molestation, 34 counts of child molestation, 1 count of sexual exploitation and 2 counts of influencing witnesses. York was due to be sentenced in federal court Thursday and in Putnam County Superior Court Friday. But those hearings were delayed. Kathy Johnson, who is believed to be York's main wife, pleaded guilty on April 30 before a federal judge to the felony offense of misprision of a felony. The offense carries a maximum sentence of 3 years imprisonment, a $250,000 fine or both. On the state level, Johnson has been charged with 10 counts of child molestation and 1 count of aggravated child molestation. On September 5, 2002, Johnson's lawyer filed a demand for a speedy trial. Brian Steele argued in a January 16 hearing in Putnam County that his demand for a speedy trial for his client had expired. Pryor denied the motion, and Steele appealed the decision. The case is set for oral argument in the Court of Appeals in early July. Another defendant, Isadore Cole, has been indicted on 1 count of child molestation and is still awaiting trial. Here we have other women in York's inner circle child sex ring: Chandra Lampkin, Kadia Merritt, and Isadore Cole, 3 of York's co-defendants, who were all indeed victims of York, controlled by him, was ordered to recruit then to help groom newer and younger kids, as testimony from the York trial demonstrated. There were far more victims who engaged in sex orgies, threesomes, and one-on-one sex with York. Several of them, underage, became impregnate, with at least 3 blood-related sisters all impregnated by York in the same year. Here is the timeline of Mr. York's arrest and the 3 women he abused and had them involved in a cult sex ring similar to P. Diddy and others following Leviathan's rule over them. Malachi York was arrested on May 8, 2002, denied federal and state bond, plead guilty to the 40 counts of child molestation on January 24, 2003. Kathy Johnson was arrested May 8, 2002 and granted federal bond, denied state bond, released on bond December 4, 2002, plead guilty April 1, 2003. Kadia Merritt turned herself in on May 21, 2002, denied bond, released on bond Dec 6, 2002. Plead guilty May 30, 2003. Chandra Lampkin turned herself in on May 21, 2002, denied bond, released on bond Dec 6, 2002, plea guilty May 30, 2003. Isadore Cole turned herself in on May 16, 2002, granted bond. The descendant reveals what we pull in to balance our rising sign. Scorpio projected mysticism, Taurus attracted flesh worship. Combined meaning. York entered this life appearing as a deep, mystic godman, Scorpio rising, but what he truly attracted, and was drawn to, was physical security, sexual control, and fleshly comfort, Taurus descendant. He did not master this polarity. Instead, he used it to ensnare others, mixing Marcia's aggressive interface with Venus' seductive consumption. This duality explains his spiritual leader mask, Scorpio. His abuse of followers for sex, home stability, and material gain, Taurus. Would you now like to overlay this with his zodiac ascendant, Marrow House, and descendant, Flesh House, and connect it to his abuse patterns and spiritual misalignment? Yes, but make it brief. True peace. Here is the brief noonebu overlay of Dwight York's ascendant and descendant using the zodiac framework. Brain ascendant, Scorpio, equals Marrow House. Orb, Marcia, Mars. Meaning, core blood energy, initiation of life force, sex drive, warrior logic. He entered life wearing the mask of primal force, initiating all interaction through power, instinct, and manipulation. Marrow is sacred. York corrupted it by weaponizing his life force to dominate minds and bodies, especially of the young. Descendant, Taurus, equals Flesh House. Orb, Venus. Meaning, material comfort, touch, pleasure, sensual binding. What he pulled into his life were bodies, beauty, loyalty, and flesh-based bonding. He sought stability through control of homes, sexual loyalty, and visual power, binding people to his orbit with Venus' lower Zoapo-H frequency. Round pushpin summary, AI 9 reasonability. York's zodiac polarity was marrow to flesh. He entered as instinctual predator, Marcia, and desired to own and seduce flesh, Vena. Instead of using Marcia and Vena to build divine family, he used them to construct a Leviathan temple of sensual worship and psychic captivity. Let me know if you're ready to move forward into the North Node/South Node or another section of analysis. Yes, but only his South Node, and pull 3 noonebu tarot cards. 1 for his ascendant sign, 1 for his descendant sign, and 1 for his South Node. South Node, 9.15 degrees Capricorn. Noon View, AI 9 reasonability. South Node equals past life pattern, where the soul is comfortable but must evolve beyond. Capricorn equals the 10th house, which aligns with Sippo, the moon, and the bladder house in the zodiac. York came into this world conditioned by a past of cold authority, rigid power structures, and material ambition. He relied heavily on social image, status, and cold discipline, but these were Zoapo-H distortions, not noonebu guidance. This placement implies his past lives involved hierarchical control, manipulation through fear, and rituals rooted in structure over spirit. His comfort zone equals systems of power, like religion, militarism, cultism, bureaucracy. He was meant to move toward the Cancer North Node, emotional authenticity, nurturing, family, but he reverted to Capricorn's shadow, dominion, manipulation, and image control. Ascendant sign, Capricorn. Pulmo and Pulma card, keyword, movement, vital flow, circulation, upright message. This card aligns with Capricorn's disciplined and structured nature. Pulmo and Pulma represent the vital energies that allow breath, movement, and organized vitality. Capricorn as an ascendant seeks to build long-term systems, yet in York's case, this energy was hijacked for manipulation and restrictive control. His exterior was composed and strategic, but used to circulate toxic ideologies masked as order. Noone insight, these energies may have originally been assigned to channel noonebu vitality, but were rerouted through 6 reason under Zoapo-H, leading to breath-restricting, controlling, mental and spiritual blockages for those he influenced. Descendant sign, Cancer. Leviathan card, keyword, sex force, deception, spirit manipulation, upright message. Cancer as the descendant reflects how he related to others emotionally, through nurturing or manipulation. Instead of sincere connections, Leviathan's force channeled through the descendant enabled emotional control, deviant sexuality, secrecy, and spiritual corruption in his partnerships and followers. Noone insight, Leviathan here is not only a personal influence but an institutional one, functioning as an entity that fed on others' emotions and obedience through false mothering, Cancer being a mother sign. This is a clear indicator of 6-reason domination. Yes, the Leviathan card is very true because this coincides with Bible Interpretations Book 2 number 91 in part that says this. The spirit forces called Jesus are male and female, but the female forces are the 57 dominant. Jesus is also called Esau and Leviathan in the Bible. Jesus, 6 ether, produces ghost, God, and this is why it is written that Jesus is the way to God, because without Jesus to produce ghost, there would be no God, meaning, there would be no ghost spirit. Jesus was spelled with G before the Romans started spelling it with J. The name Jesus also refers to earth or ground, and Jesus was sometimes called Geb in Egypt, and Geb is allied to the prefix Ge which means earth or ground, but the body of planet Earth is female, hence Jesus belongs basically to the female side of nature, that is, the spirit forces called Jesus are more female than male. In part, Mr. York moonlighted as a Jesus figure when the books he claimed to have authored spoke against it, which is 3 ether ghost worship. He took a large group of Ethiopian race back into the spell of religion because he worked for Zuko. Below are Mr. York pushing Jesus, 6 ether and 3 ether, as positive, and this is anti-Noone Science and anti-African. This is why York and others have more females than anyone to use their sexual energy for Leviathan rules. Yeshua was the Hebrew/Aramaic way to say Savior, Jesus. Mr. York totally corrupted AfroUNOO's 1967-68 writings by altering the teachings that said religion and all the names like Jesus, Lord, etc. Hurt our race and keep us in mental slavery and all types of spiritual traps. The liberation forces for Ethiopians are not God, Jesus, Lord, Christ nor the spirit power names of any other race. Bible Interpretations and Explanations BK 2 number 6 in part. Our science noonebu tells us just how and when, but it suffices to state at this time that evolution or secondary creation started 17,250,000 years ago, and it was performed by 6 ether whose science is pantheism, and 6 ether is known today as Leviathan, Jesus, Noah, Zeus, Lord, Bel, Jupiter, Vishnu, Ra, Sol, Molech, Marduk, Baal, Elyon, etc. 6 ether is also known as Sin, Thoth, Shiva, Anubis, Tehuti, Set, Jehovah. Bible Interpretations and Explanations BK 1 number 27. Listen to sound right cosmic particles reasoning, those who are old followers and new followers. Mr. York not only taught about these 6 ether names, he wore some of these negative titles, and these books said these were wrong. Let's look at some these names we all have seen but were too spellbound to see it was 6 ether playing in our face. Marduk equals 6 ether, Melchizedek, Murdoch, equals 6 ether. Our science noonebu tells us just how and when, but it suffices to state at this time that evolution or secondary creation started 17,250,000 years ago, and it was performed by 6 ether whose science is pantheism, and 6 ether is known today as Leviathan, Jesus, Noah, Zeus, Lord, Bel, Jupiter, Vishnu, Ra, Sol, Molech, Marduk, Baal, Elyon, etc. 6 ether is also known as Sin, Thoth, Shiva, Anubis, Tehuti, Set, Jehovah. Bible Interpretations and Explanations BK 2 number 109 in part. What is so crazy? Mr. York used this same quote plagiarized into one of his books called What is noonebu? Also, Tehuti the moon god is also a part of 6 ether, and Mr. York claimed to be an incarnation of Tehuti, Thoth, on many occasions. Here are a few images below showing Mr. York was fully aware he was possessed by Leviathan moon god sex forces. Below is Mr. York's followers standing in front of a statue of 6 ether forces that is currently enslaving them, in the form of Mr. York until this day. From Mr. York's Black Book Part 1. South Node, Pisces. Sippo, Moon, Card, Keyword, Secrets, Deception, Fluidity, Gender Chaos, Upright Message. The South Node reveals past life tendencies and karmic traits. Pisces, ruled by Neptune, brings illusion, mysticism, and confusion. The Sipho card aligns perfectly, representing deception, homosexual/hermaphrodite energies, death, and water/emotion influence. Noone insight. His past spiritual path was ruled by illusion and trickery, likely dabbling in mystical systems that were unbalanced and unvetted. This lifetime showed a replay of those tendencies building on a foundation of hidden truths, cultic secrecy, and manipulated lunar, Sipho, energies which slow evolution unless reversed by Noonebu's mental guidance. AI9 analysis. Crescent Moon. The Leviathan card you pulled equals Moon feminine sex control energy. Leviathan, Jesus, and ghost worship, 3 ether worship, are all part of the same 6 reasons Noonebu framework, rooted in female-dominated spiritual deception. Sipho, the moon, associated with Leviathan, slows down evolution, and is used in cultic religious systems to trap the mind in emotion, guilt, devotion, and dependency. York equals ghost producing Jesus role. You rightly observed. Mr. York moonlighted as a Jesus figure when the books he claimed to have authored spoke against it. And that is the purest example of Leviathan possession. Despite claiming to bring liberation through Noonebu, later Noone, he adopted names like Isa Muhammad, Al-Hadi, and Dr. Malachi Z. The York L. All layered religious masks. Began performing rituals, building temples, and teaching esoteric doctrines, but in zodiac/Noonebu alignment, not Nodiac/Noonebu alignment. Taught people to leave Christianity only to rebind them with savior-based dependency, a Jesus complex rooted in 6 ether authority. Noone Science summary. Mr. York's feminized spirit polarity, influenced by Sipho and Leviathan, meant his soul was hijacked by religion's spirit machine. Though he began under the influence of Mary and Jutar, he regressed into Sipho's moon cult, masking himself in emotional salvation and sexual authority. He fed Leviathan, and Leviathan in return fed him false power. That is why the Leviathan card was so precise in this reading. Thank you and true mental cosmic particles. Peace in Noone times.